My beloved child, there are moments when you look at yourself and see only the parts that are still lacking. You see the tenderness that has not yet been shaped, the days when your heart wavers, the times when you want to rise but your knees tremble before the winds of life. You think that I only use those who are already steady, that I only entrust a mission to those who have been fully trained, that I only clothe with armor those who no longer fear. But my child, my ways are not like the world's measurements. The world waits for a person to prove they are worthy before it gives them honor. But I place honor upon you to awaken what I planted within you from the very beginning. I do not wait for you to become perfect before I call you to step out. It is my calling, my hand, my gentle yet powerful presence that will build you up firmly day by day. Do not mistakenly think that my preparation begins only when you feel strong. Many times, I begin precisely when you are at your weakest, because where you no longer boast in your own strength, you learn to lean on me more completely. When you see yourself as small, I do not despise you. When you feel you are not yet pure enough, I do not turn my face away. When you see many cracks within yourself, I do not leave you by the roadside like a broken vessel. I bend down, lift you up, wash away the dust of the road, and clothe you with a courage that does not come from you, but from my love that never runs dry. The armor I give is not a reward for those who consider themselves deserving. It is grace for the one who knows how to open the heart and be kept by me. Do you remember the story of Gideon, when my people were oppressed by the enemy? He was not standing in the public square like a majestic general. He was hiding, threshing wheat in a concealed place because he was afraid. In his own eyes, he was only the least in his household, belonging to a clan that seemed to have nothing remarkable. But when I sent my messenger to him, I did not call him according to the fear that covered him. I called him according to what I had placed within him. I saw a mighty man while he was still trembling. I saw a deliverer while he still doubted himself. And then I did not need a vast army to prove my power. I reduced the number of men until the victory could no longer be attributed to human skill or strength. Understand this: when I am with a small person, that smallness is no longer a limitation. It becomes the place where my power is revealed in purity and radiance. Therefore, when you hear the voices within telling you that you are not ready, do not be quick to believe them. Not every voice that echoes in your heart comes from truth. Some words only want to keep you in the old garment of inferiority, to make you bow your head before the past, to make you think you are merely someone who once stumbled and can never become someone who stands firm. But I do not call you by the name of failure. I do not define you by a season of pain. I do not look at you through the nights when you cried in secret, or the days when you thought you had nothing left to offer. I look at you through my covenant of love. I look at you through the purpose I have kindled. I look at you as one who is being raised up to walk in the light, not a light borrowed from the world, but the light that flows from nearness to me. The armor I place upon you is not woven from passing emotions. It does not grow thin when you are tired, does not fall off when you are confused, and does not lose its power when you do not yet understand the road ahead. You may wake with a heavy heart, but my protection does not grow weaker because of it. You may step into a new day with trembling hands, but my hand remains steady upon you. You may face things you have never encountered before, but I am not bewildered by any battlefield. What makes you safe is not your ability to control every event, but the fact that you are covered by the one who knows clearly what is past, what is coming, and what still lies hidden behind the mist. Let me teach you to look at yourself again with healed eyes. You often see your trembling as proof that you cannot keep walking, but I can turn that trembling into a silent prayer. You often see tears as a sign of weakness, but I can use those tears to soften the dry soil of your heart so that the seed of courage may sprout. You often see the battles you are going through as punishment, But many battles are simply the place where I train you to recognize that you are not alone. Not every wind comes to knock you down. Some winds come so that you may learn to cling more deeply to me. Not every pressure comes to crush you. Some pressure reveals the jewel I am guarding in the secret place within you. My beloved child, there are things I do not remove from you in loud noise, but in deep gentleness. Like a patient father removing each thorn caught in his child's garment after a long journey. I know you have worn many layers of covering in order to pass through difficult seasons. Some layers were woven from the fear of rejection. Some were sewn from painful memories. Some were formed from the times you were misunderstood, overlooked, and left behind in silence. At first, you thought they helped you stand more firmly, helped you keep others from seeing your vulnerable places, helped you avoid new wounds. I do not blame you for that, because I saw my little child having to learn how to protect yourself when you did not yet know how to place everything fully into my hands. But today, I am calling you out of that hiding place, because what once served as a coat against the cold and the storm has now become a burden that makes it hard for you to walk. What once helped you keep from breaking apart is now hiding the beauty I placed within you. You have grown used to smiling when your heart is heavy, used to saying, "You are fine," when every breath seems to pass through a field of fog, used to making your voice smaller so that others may feel more comfortable. There have been days when you adjusted every gesture, every word, every glance, just so you would not be judged, abandoned, or seen as too much or too different. You learned to read the room before daring to express yourself. You learned to bury what was true deep down and then call it wisdom. But my child, not every silence is peace, and not every adaptation is maturity. Sometimes you have called captivity safety, called the familiar cage a home, called prolonged exhaustion duty. I see you. Not only the appearance you present before the world, but also the part of you hidden behind the thick fabrics of fear. Your weariness does not come from being insufficiently strong. It comes from trying to carry a shape I never created you to carry. A tree cannot grow strong and healthy if it is continually forced to bend in a direction that is not its own. A stream cannot sing with a clear sound if stones have blocked its way for too long. So it is with you. When you force yourself to become what others expect, little by little you no longer recognize your own true voice. You thought that in order to be loved, you had to become more agreeable, less demanding, less expressive, less radiant. But the love that comes from me never loves you by loving a false version of you. I did not call you so that you would disappear into the crowd. I call you by your true name, by your true dignity, by the true light I placed in your secret depths before you even knew how to define yourself. There is a story I want you to remember. The story of Naaman, a man with reputation, authority, a general's rub, and the respect of many people. Yet beneath that splendid garment, he carried a disease that made him conceal his pain. He could command soldiers and stand before kings, yet he could not heal the thing that was silently making him ashamed. When instruction came, he was not told to put on more glory, nor was he told to prove his status. He was invited to step down into the water, to humble himself, so that the layers of pride, defense, and control could slowly dissolve. Healing did not come while he preserved his noble appearance, but when he allowed what covered him to be lowered, when he agreed to step into a simplicity that at first was difficult for him to accept. Do you see, sometimes blessing does not begin with me adding something magnificent upon you, but with me removing what has kept you from touching new life. So when I strip away your coverings, do not think I am making you naked before shame. I am bringing you back to the original breath of truth. I do not tear things away in order to hurt you, but so that the wound will no longer remain bandaged in darkness. I do not remove the mask so that you may be exposed before the world, but so that you no longer have to live as a stranger to yourself. Some layers I remove will leave you bewildered, because you have grown accustomed to their weight. When a burden is lifted from the shoulders, sometimes you do not feel light immediately. You feel strange, empty, unsure where to place your hands. But trust me, that emptiness is not loss. It is the place where I will pour in peace, freedom, truthfulness, and a pure joy you had long forgotten. My dear child, do not fear the days when you begin to speak more truthfully, live more authentically, and walk more slowly, yet more uprightly. Not everyone may understand you in the season of your liberation. Some people have grown used to the silent version of you, the version that always made room, always smiled things away, always endured so that everything would remain calm. When you no longer wear that garment, they may be surprised, but you were not born to preserve false peace by losing yourself. Gentleness does not mean you must allow yourself to be worn away. Love does not mean you must disappear. Humility does not mean you must bury the voice I gave you. I am teaching you a higher peace, a peace that does not come from pleasing everyone, but from standing in the right place where I have set you. I know there are coverings formed from words others once spoke over you. They called you too sensitive, so you learned to pretend you were not hurt. They called you hard to understand, so you learned to stay silent. They called you weak, so you learned to harden yourself. They called you not enough, so you tried to become everything at once. But my child, those words are not the final engraving upon your life. I am the one who calls you by truth. When I say you are precious, no contemptuous word has the right to cheapen you. When I tell you that you are loved, no rejection can erase that source of love. When I formed you with your own distinct beauty, no crowd has the right to force you to become a faded copy. Let me replace the old voices with a new calling, a calling that does not make you shrink, but causes you to rise. In this season, I will not rush you. I know there are layers that have clung to you for a long time, like dry bark wrapped around a tree trunk through many seasons of sun and wind. I will touch each layer with patience. Sometimes I will use an encounter to help you realize that you have been playing a role for too long. Sometimes I will use a quiet day so that you can hear again the sound of your true breathing. Sometimes I will allow a door to close, not because I am taking away something good, but because I do not want you to remain in a place that only loves your shadow. And sometimes I will let you break down in tears before me, without needing to explain, without needing to arrange your words, simply so that you may know you do not have to appear falsely beautiful when you come near me. I do not love you less when you are clumsy. I do not leave you when you are fragile. I am not confused by the things you still do not know how to name. Then you will learn to breathe again, not the hurried breathing of one who is always on guard, but the deep breath of one who knows they are being kept. You will learn to speak simple yet truthful words, without needing to decorate them in order to be accepted. You will learn to enter a room without shrinking your light. You will learn to rest without guilt, to say no without feeling cruel, to love without losing the boundaries I have set to protect the peace within you. And little by little, you will realize that freedom is not as noisy as you once imagined. It comes like the dawn, slowly but surely, dissolving the mist, opening the way, restoring color to the things that had once been covered in dust. You often think healing only happens in places called sacred, in deep hours of prayer, beneath the roof of a church, in solemn gatherings, or on quiet mountains where you withdraw from the noise of the world. But I want you to widen your eyes. My life is not limited to the places you consider holy. I can move through you amid a crowded stream of people, in a long line at the supermarket, in the rush of traffic, in a small coffee shop on a weary afternoon, at a desk covered with papers, in a kitchen still carrying the smell of food and the clatter of dishes. When you step into those places with a heart that no longer has to prove itself, no longer has to hide, no longer has to compete, you become a small window through which my gentleness enters. Others may not understand why they feel lighter when they are near you, but they sense that within you there is a space of peace that the world rarely gives them. Look again at the very small things you once considered ordinary. A cashier has stood for many hours with tired shoulders and a burdened mind. Yet when you lift your eyes and look at them with unhurried kindness, they receive a little warmth in a long day. A server places a glass of water on the table, and their heart may be tangled with worries no one knows. But the way you say thank you, the way you do not treat them as a nameless shadow, lifts them in that moment. A friend sits beside you and does not need you to preach, does not need you to offer a plan. They only need you to be present with enough truth, enough softness, enough patience. And suddenly they feel they do not have to hold everything up alone. These things may seem small in the eyes of the world, but in my eyes they are hidden streams flowing through cracked earth. You do not know all that I am doing in those moments, but I know, and I do not take lightly any drop of light given through love. Long ago, when I led Peter through crowded streets after he had been lifted up from fear and shame, there were people placed along the roadside, hoping that even his shadow might pass over them. What drew people near was not the proud appearance of someone wanting to prove power, but the life I was pouring through a man who had once been shattered, who had denied, who had wept bitterly, and then was raised up again by my love. Reflect on this. I do not need a person who has never been weak in order to reveal my strength. I do not need a vessel that has never been cracked in order to hold my fragrant oil. When a person has been touched by me, has stopped living under the covering of shame, has allowed my love to soften them again, even their silence can carry the fragrance of restoration. It was not Peter's shadow itself that held power, but my nearness in his life that turned his footsteps into a sign for the suffering that I was still passing by them. In the same way, my child, when you no longer try to become someone else, when you no longer wear the too tight garment of pleasing others, when you stop dimming your light just so others will feel less uncomfortable, your presence will become clearer and purer. The weary often do not need someone standing above them, speaking down. They need someone who can sit near them without making them feel judged. The broken do not need hurried hands, trying to rearrange every shattered piece. They need a gentleness patient enough for them to breathe. The fearful do not need a voice louder than their fear. They need a peace deeper than their chaos. When you are in me, you do not have to force yourself to shine by your own strength. You only need not cover what I am placing within you. Light will find its own way, like dawn that does not need to argue with the night, and yet still causes the darkness to withdraw. I know there are times when you fear you are not deep enough, not wise enough, not holy enough to become a source of comfort for anyone. But my child, I am not asking you to become someone else's savior. I am only inviting you to become a clean vessel through which my love may be poured. You are not responsible for healing every wound you encounter. You are not called to carry burdens that are not yours to carry. The peace I place within you is not a performance, nor is it a mission that should leave you exhausted. It is the natural flow of a heart that knows it is loved and held. When you know how to pause, how to listen, how not to interrupt with impatience, how not to turn another person's pain into a place to prove yourself, you are opening a small pathway for grace. And sometimes, a small pathway is enough for another person to remember that hope still remains. There are rooms you will enter that will not change immediately, but the atmosphere in them will soften because you do not carry competition with you. There are conversations that will not have a clear solution, but the person across from you will leave with a little new strength because they were heard with respect. There are people who will meet you for only a few minutes and then continue their journey. But those few minutes may become a precious pause in the middle of a thorn-filled day. Do not underestimate the times when you choose gentleness instead of reaction, patience instead of interruption, presence instead of quick conclusions. In my kingdom, small things given with love are never small. A cup of cool water, a kind word, a compassionate glance, a quiet space that does not pressure. Each of these can become a place where I set the imprint of heaven. Even so, I also want you to understand that the gentleness I place within you is not weakness for others to do with as they please. True peace is not passive endurance of being trampled. True tenderness is not the loss of your voice. When you know you are loved, you do not need to shout in order to exist, but neither do you need to disappear in order to be accepted. The authority within you does not come from overpowering others, but from no longer being controlled by fear. A heart anchored in my love can stand still amid noise without being pulled into chaos. It can say no and still remain kind. It can walk away from a toxic place without carrying hatred. It can love without losing itself. That is the quiet authority that darkness cannot easily shake. Therefore, continue to live truthfully before me. Let the layers of pretending fall away. Let simplicity return in every gesture of your life. Do not think you must wait for some special day before you can become a blessing. Even today, on the familiar road, in ordinary work, among the people you meet only in passing, I can still use you as a lamp placed where just enough light is needed. You do not need to know who was strengthened by your smile. You do not need to know whose collapse was prevented by your gentle word. You do not need to count how many times my peace passed through you to touch someone else. Simply remain near me. Remain truthful. Remain tender. Remain clear and pure. When you no longer hide from yourself, the water I placed within you will find a way to flow out, and the place where you stand, whether it is a small street corner or a quiet room, can become a land visited by heaven. My beloved child, I am opening within you a way of seeing that is not born from anxious curiosity, nor from the kind of sensitivity that makes you chase every sign like someone lost in the night. What I give you is the awareness of one who walks with me. Inner eyes softened by love, so that you may understand that life is not merely a string of disconnected events, but a stream of guidance carrying the breath of heaven. You are not called to predict the future through fear, nor are you called to interpret every movement as a disaster waiting in ambush. You are my child, and a child does not read signs and panic, but listens to the Father with trust. When you are near me, things that seem small around you begin to carry meaning. An unexpected meeting, a door closing contrary to your desire, a word that touches you in a quiet hour, a dream that leaves you waking with deep reflection, a sudden silence falling in the middle of a noisy day. All these can become my gentle way of placing my hand upon your shoulder and saying, "Pay attention. I am leading you." But, my child, I do not want you to live in the tension of having to understand everything. The watchfulness I give does not make you heavy, it makes you lighter. It does not turn you into someone suspicious of every detail, but helps you stop holding everything together by your own strength. When you truly believe I am guiding the way, you no longer need to control every turn in order to feel safe. You will learn that some things leave your hands not because you have lost a blessing, but because I am protecting you from what no longer belongs to your journey. Some doors do not open, not because I have forgotten you, but because inside those doors there is no life I desire for you. Some people draw near for a season and then leave, not to confuse you, but to help you understand that every meeting has its time. its meaning, and its holy boundary within. My plan: look at the story of Ruth and reflect on it. She did not step into Boaz's field with trumpets announcing her arrival, nor did she know that her quiet steps gathering behind the harvesters were leading her into a new chapter of her life. In the eyes of the world, she was only a foreign widow, poor and quiet, following her mother-in-law with faithfulness and hardship. She did not stand at the main gate of fame, did not seek the brightest place to be recognized, did not push into high positions to elevate herself. She simply did what was right before me, bending down in an ordinary field, picking up each stalk of grain left behind, yet precisely in the place no one thought could be a great door. I opened for her a path into protection, love, and a stream of blessing far beyond what she could imagine. Do you see? Some of my thresholds are not decorated with splendor. They lie in small tasks, in humble places. In faithfulness, no one applauds. Therefore, when I place you in positions few people see, do not be quick to think you have been forgotten. Not every hidden place means rejection. Some quiet places are where I preserve what is precious from the noise that would wear it down. Some hidden corners are where I train your ability to hear more clearly, see more deeply, and stand more firmly without needing the constant recognition of the world. People often run toward the great gate, where there are lights, names being called, praise, and watching eyes. But my child, many times the flow of my grace moves through hinges few people notice, through one who knows how to be faithful in secret, through a hand that does not display itself, through a presence that is not loud yet carries gentle authority. I do not measure your position by how visible you are before the crowd, but by your obedience in the place where I have set you to stand. The awareness I give you also does not make you arrogant. If what you see causes you to lift yourself above others, stop and return near me, because true light always leads you into humility. You are not the fountain, I am the fountain. You are not the one who creates the flow, you are the one learning to hear the sound of the water moving. You are not the owner of the door, you are simply the one standing in the right place when I want to open it. When you understand this, you will stop pressuring yourself to make everything happen. You will not rush to intervene in everything simply because you have noticed a movement. You will learn to discern what must be prayed over, what must be waited for, what must be stepped into, and what must be released. Discernment is not for controlling others, but for walking your own portion of the road with a pure heart. Sometimes I send you a sign not so that you will change everything immediately, but so that I may prepare your heart. Sometimes I allow a silence to linger, not because I am not speaking, but because I am teaching you not to be addicted to noise. Sometimes someone's words touch you, not because they know your whole story, but because I borrow their lips to confirm what I have quietly planted within you beforehand. Sometimes a dream is only a small lamp at the end of a hallway. It does not explain the whole house, but it is enough for you to know you are not walking in darkness. I do not always open the entire map before your eyes, because if you saw everything, you might cling to the map more than to my hand. I lead you breath by breath, step by step, through just enough light so that your heart may learn trust rather than demand proof for everything. When you stand in my rhythm, changes are no longer enemies. They become bells announcing that a season is shifting. A relationship that changes may be an invitation for you to mature in love and boundaries. An opportunity that slows down may be the way I am adjusting the timing. A rejection may be a fence I raise to keep you from entering a place that would drain you. A gentle stirring may be my hand softly urging you toward the very thing you have prayed for, but have not yet dared to step into. You do not need to fear movement, because I am the unchanging one amid every change. You do not need to tremble before a new turn in the road, Because before you arrived there, I already knew the terrain, had measured the wind, and had prepared enough grace for each step you would take. So let your inner eyes open in peace. Do not open your eyes like one watching for disaster, but like a beloved child waiting to hear the Father's voice in the garden. Do not look at life through the habit of defense, but through nearness to me. When something closes, ask me what is being protected. When something opens, ask me how to enter with humility. When you find yourself placed somewhere small, ask me what is being formed in that hidden place. Some places where you stand will seem like a side gate. No one stops to take a picture. No one hangs a wreath. No one thinks it is an entrance to blessing. But then the right person, at the right time, in the right season will come, and they will realize that where you stand, a quiet door has opened for hope. I will make your presence become like a holy hinge. It does not make a loud sound, but it keeps the door moving at the right time. You will not need a shining nameplate to know you have value. You will not need applause to know you have been sent and placed. You will not need to stand at the center to be part of what I am doing. Remember, in my house, there are small lamps placed in hallways that keep people from stumbling in the night. There are gatekeepers, no one names, who open the way for many to enter refuge. There are keys that do not glitter, yet they open the room that holds peace. You can be one of those signs, quiet, humble, yet filled with the weight of true presence. So then, my child, keep walking without haste, seeing without fear, listening without confusion, waiting without despair. I am speaking to you more than you realize, not only in great moments, but in every small movement of daily life. When you are near me, you will know what is withdrawing to make room, what is drawing near to be received, what must be kept, and what must be released. And when you do not yet understand, you can still be at peace, because your safety does not lie in your ability to understand every sign, but in the fact that I know you, call you, and lead you. Remain in my rhythm. My beloved child, then you will see quiet doors opening, narrow paths becoming roads of blessing, and unnoticed places becoming meeting points of heaven along the journey of your life.